They said I was being too picky when I pleaded for assistance. Told me the mess was okay. But the moment I quit cleaning, cooking, and lugging it all, they complained, blamed me. And then my husband said one thing and I finally lost it. What ensued altered everything. You ever reach that place in life where you're stretched so thin? You feel like if one more thing tugs on you, you'll just snap? Yes. That's where I've been residing recently. I'm a wife, a mom, a full-time worker, and now a grad student, which, on paper, reads like a resume, not a life. But I assure you, it is my life. And it's draining. I have 3 kids, all teenagers, which translates to the house essentially being a battlefield of hormones, laundry, and half-done conversations. My husband? He's around, I guess. But in that I'll take out the trash and mow the lawn kind of way. You know, the traditional man chores. And me? I used to do everything else. Like, everything else. Cooking, cleaning, shopping, scheduling appointments, keeping birthdays in mind, sorting school emails, signing off on permission slips, ensuring the dog is walked. The fridge is not harboring a new type of mold. You catch my drift. But then last year, something broke inside me. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even burnout, not initially. It was more like this numb pain. Like I'd been draining from my cup for so long that when I finally glanced down, there was nothing left there. And I understood if I didn't make a change, do something different, I was going to fade away. So I did something for me. I applied to a graduate school. I didn't even mention it to anyone at first, not until I was accepted. I was scared, not of the program itself, but of what it represented. That for the first time in years, I was going to put me first, and I don't think my family was prepared for that. At first, I attempted to keep everything operating the way it always had. I'd work, come home from work, assist with homework, cook dinner, do laundry, and then stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning reading. My eyes would grow blurry halfway through a paper, and I'd have to read the same sentence 6 times to try to make it make sense. But I persevered. I told myself, it's just temporary. Just until I complete this degree. Then everything will level out. But it didn't. Not really. Because the more I tried to make it all balance, the more weight it accumulated. Finally, I sought assistance. I brought everyone in, my husband, the children, and I said, listen, I'm sinking here. I need you all to pull your weight more. And do you know what they told me? Everything's okay. You're being too nitpicky. Too nitpicky. As if the sticky kitchen counters were my own personal crusade. As if the smelly recycling bin and the odd stench under the couch were simply a matter of opinion that I was deciding to get anxious over. So I quit asking.
Y assumed, okay, fine.
If they don't notice a problem, then perhaps I am the problem. Perhaps I am too controlling. So I backed off. I started making big batches of freezer meals on Sundays and calling it done. I stopped wiping down the baseboards every week. I stopped folding towels in thirds. I let the little things go. And for a while, things were quiet. Until they weren't. Because slowly, like dust gathering on a windowsill, my family started complaining. The floor feels gross. We're eating that frozen stuff again? Why's there dog fur on the stairs? And whenever someone said something, I'd bite my tongue,
Count to 5, and say,
if it bothers you, clean it. And each time, they'd just walk away. Not angry, not dramatic, just indifferent. Like even cleaning it themselves had never occurred to them. And the thing is, I wasn't being petty. I wasn't lounging around eating bonbons and watching them struggle. I was still doing so much. Working, studying, paying bills, running errands. I just wasn't getting it all done anymore. But obviously, that was it. The straw broke on a Thursday. It had been a long week. 2 work deadlines, 1 exam, a sick child, and a car that wasn't feeling like rolling anymore. I was hunched over the dining table, headphones on, trying to complete a research paper that was already 2 days overdue when my husband walked in. He didn't greet me, didn't even ask how I was doing. He stood there, holding the shower curtain liner from our bathroom. It's moldy, he said. That's all. Not, hey, I saw this. Do you want me to get a new one? Not, do you need some assistance?
Just.
It's moldy. As if I was the house manager and he was notifying maintenance about a problem. I just looked at him for a moment, and then I got up and called a family meeting. Now, I don't do that very often. Family gatherings in our home tend to have an agenda. Somebody's in trouble.
Somebody broke something.
So when I told them, everyone to the living room now, they all looked up from their phones like, OSHD asterisk. I waited until they were all sitting, and then I let it rip. I am not your maid. I am not your short order cook. I am not your personal assistant, scheduler, dog walker, and emotional sponge. I am a person. I am tired. I am trying. They blinked.
Silent.
I turned to my kids. Then my husband. If you don't like the appearance of something, clean it. If you find food to be dull, cook something. If the floors are dirty, guess what? You live here. Your feet create those floors dirty. My voice cracked. Just a little. I asked for assistance. I asked politely. And you all said everything was okay. But evidently, it's not. You've complained. You've been walking by garbage and pretending like I'll just take care of it. I shook my head. No more. If you notice something, do something. If you don't like the process, help change it. But I'm finished being the only person who cares. My husband finally broke in. That's not fair. I interrupted him.
No.
What's not fair is that I work full-time, I'm in grad school, I'm a parent, and I have a house too, and you boys pick and choose the tasks that are easiest. What's not fair is that I sacrifice sleep and quiet and myself. So all of you won't have to feel awkward. I took a breath and continued. And besides, this applies to you too. Not only the children. He folded his arms. You don't have to speak to us in that manner. My gut curled. Like what? Like we're slackers. Like we don't care. I glared at him for a very long time. I've been pleading for assistance. And all I received in return was silence. Or excuses. If this sounds harsh, perhaps that speaks louder about the manner in which things have been rather than the manner in which it was delivered. He remained silent. The children grumbled something about being busy.
School.
Clubs.
Sports.
I flashed them a tight smile. You think I'm not busy? You think grad school and work and this house are just light hobbies for me? Silence. Then listen up.
I'm redistributing chores.
Everyone's getting more responsibility. You don't like it?
Tough.
Life's not fair. I've been doing it all for too long. And I won't anymore. I turned and walked away. Closed my laptop. Went to bed. And the morning after? No one said a single word to me. The silence was
thick,
awkward, and perhaps justified.
But now,
I don't know. Now I'm wondering if I overstepped. Maybe I shouldn't have yelled. Maybe I should have broken the news gently. Maybe I should have made a graph or held hands and sung Kumbaya or something. Because now, no one's really speaking to me. And I keep wondering, did I mess this up? Did I change the rules too abruptly? Was it selfish to prioritize my goals over the way the house has always operated? Was I selfish? Or were they just accustomed to me never refusing? I don't know anymore. All I know is,
I'm exhausted.
And for once, I want to know someone else can see the crumbs on the counter and not wait for me to clean them. But they didn't. They were still there the following morning. The crumbs. Small stale reminders of how far this entire thing had strayed from the plan. I stood there in the kitchen, bleary-eyed, holding my coffee cup like it was a lifeline, just staring at those stupid crumbs. Nobody had touched them. Nobody had said a word. My husband brushed by me, took his travel mug, didn't even look me in the eye. The kids?
Same.
One of them muttered, morning, without looking up from their phone. It was as if I had become background noise. Or perhaps I always had, and this was the first time that I knew it. Before they were all out the door, the house had been so quiet it actually hurt. That kind of silence where your thoughts ring a little too loud. I sat down at the kitchen table, textbook open in front of me, and couldn't read a damn word. My mind kept replaying the night before like a broken record. Too harsh. Too much. Too soon. I began to wonder if I should apologize. But for what, then? For speaking the truth? For asking the folks around here to Be like they are around here? I didn't apologize.
Not that day.
I thought maybe they just needed to let things cool down. Maybe it was like a storm. You just sit it out, and everything returns to normal. Except, normal is what landed me in trouble in the first place. 2 days went by. Still nothing. No one volunteered. No one cleaned. No one cooked. I stood in the kitchen once again, Wednesday evening, in front of an almost bare fridge. My pre-cooked freezer meals were stolen. The cereal box was out and empty on the shelf as a joke. I closed the fridge and just
Laughed.
that silent, seething laugh that's closer to steam escaping from a pressure valve. Then I went upstairs. I opened my bedroom door, and I began crying. I don't mean the movie scene sobbing with one tear and a gentle violin accompaniment. No, this was crude. Heaving in the chest, biting of the lips, don't let it be too loud crying. Because for all the shouting I did last night, for all the speeches and threats, I don't think they listened to me.
Like actually listened to me.
They heard the anger, the sharpness in my tone, the part that was exhausted and done, and yelling for rescue. But they didn't hear the part beneath, the part that was shattering, the part that just wished anyone to see me like I see them. To consider, hey, mom looks exhausted, or perhaps she might benefit from taking a break, or even just, I will do this without needing to be asked. I wiped my face and took in my room, and I swear, I didn't even know it. Dirty laundry stacked up in the corner. 2 mismatched socks hanging over the rim of the hamper. Dust piling up on the baseboards I used to scrub every Saturday morning without fail. My old self would have been appalled. But my new self? She just felt
defeated.
I crawled into bed without eating dinner. Just got in under the covers and looked at the ceiling. And then, at midnight, I heard noises. The door creaked open just a crack. It was my daughter. She stood there, pausing, then crept in and sat down on the foot of the bed. Hey, she whispered. You sleeping? I shook my head. She sat there for a moment, like she was collecting her thoughts, then said, I didn't know how much you were doing until you quit. I said nothing. I couldn't. I figured. You enjoy doing that kind of thing.
You always seemed like
you knew what you were doing. I breathed out. I had to know what I was doing. She nodded. Then, gently, I'm sorry. That broke something in me. I shifted my gaze, watched her in the faint light. I'm not angry with you, I told her. I'm just
exhausted.
And in need of assistance. Actual assistance. Not me reminding everyone what to do and creating lists of things nobody does. She nodded once. I'll do better. And she did. She washed the dishes the next morning, loaded the dishwasher, cleaned the counters without anyone having to remind her. And like that, the energy changed. But barely. My daughter was attempting. I could see it. My boys, and my husband, still behaving as if this entire ordeal would pass if they just kept their mouths shut long enough.
Like if they just
waited me out, I'd fall back into invisibility and being the workhorse. Spoiler, I didn't. Later in the week, I returned from work and the living room was a disaster. Couch cushions scattered about on the floor. Fast food wrappers on the coffee table. There were shoes wherever you looked. My son sat on the couch, headphones on, video watching like the mess around him didn't matter. I stood there for a minute. I then went up to him and knocked on his shoulder. He yanked out one earbud. Yeah, clean this up. He glanced around as if he were noticing the mess for the first time. I didn't do all this, he said. And I swear, something inside of me just broke again. I didn't scream.
I didn't shout.
But my voice was cold.
Low.
You live here. It's your mess, too.
He blinked.
Why are you so angry all the time? I glared at him. Because I am doing it all. For everyone. And no one notices until it doesn't get done anymore. You're not a guest here. This is your home.
Clean it.
He complained. Rolled his eyes. Stood up. And yeah, he cleaned. But it wasn't done out of understanding. It was done out of resentment. And honestly, that stung more. That weekend, I did something different. I took a copy of all the things I am usually responsible for in a week. All the loads of laundry. All the dinners, all the dog walks, all the floors vacuumed, all the sinks scrubbed, all the bills paid. It was 2 entire pages. I presented it to my husband. He read it over slowly, then looked up at me. "You're exaggerating," he said. I didn't even blink. I wish I was. He put the list down as if it was too heavy to bear. "I just don't get why this is all such a big deal now." And there it was. The sentence that said it all.
Why now?
Not, "Why did I let this go so long?" Not, "Why haven't I helped more?" Just, "Why now?" Because they never saw the gradual creep. They did not see when I gave up vacuuming the stairs, or when the nightly homemade meals became casseroles reheated. They did not see the hours I sacrificed to schoolwork, or the sleep I sacrificed in order to get work done after everyone else had gone to bed. They saw the lack of convenience, not the existence of my sacrifice. I turned to my husband and said, "Because now, I'm finally choosing me, and that's new for you." His face set. And that was when I knew. This wasn't just about the laundry anymore. This was about respect. This was about how easy it had been for years for me to fade into the background, quietly maintaining everything while they all went on with their lives. And the minute I stepped up, the minute I spoke up and said, "Hey, I count too," it upset the whole apple cart. I didn't say anything else that day. But inside, something had shifted. I didn't want to go back to the way things were. Not just because I couldn't, but because I shouldn't. The old me, she was loyal, yes. But she was also exhausted. She was reserved. She dodged fight. She allowed herself to become the glue that held everything together, even when it cost her to crack herself in half. The new me? She was still learning, still unsteady, still uncertain. But she was sick of being invisible. And perhaps that was a good place to begin. And perhaps that was a good place to begin. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. Each morning, I'd wake up and survey the house, steeling myself for another unseen fight. Not against dirt or dishes or dog hair, but against the silent resistance that dwelled in each unvoiced eye roll, each chore avoided, each conversation truncated. Because when you cease performing the drudge people never saw, people see you in the bad ways. I began hearing it in small things. Why are we always out of clean socks? What happened to pasta night? Didn't we used to sweep the back porch? That last one almost made me laugh. We?
There was never a we. It was always me.
But sure, now it's a team effort. When something's missing. I attempted to keep hold of the progress, though. My daughter was still attempting. She'd gotten cooking dinner a few nights a week, and while it was typically boxed mac and cheese or scrambled eggs and toast, something was being done. I went out of my way to thank her. I didn't want to punish effort, even if it wasn't optimal. The boys were resisting. And my husband? In good truth, he was the toughest part.
It was like
I'd stolen something from him. Like by establishing boundaries, I'd violated some unspoken agreement he had with me. He began doing a chore, loading the dishwasher, folding towels, but he did it like it pained him. Like he needed me to understand he was doing it only because I wasn't. I came into the kitchen one evening and caught him scrubbing a pan with gusto as if it had personally offended him. "You don't have to be angry while you do it," I reminded him softly. He didn't even glance up. "You made it clear you don't want to do this kind of thing anymore." "No, I made it clear I can't do everything anymore. There's a difference." He shut off the water, threw the sponge in the sink, and stared at me like I'd uttered something crazy. "You're the one who chose to go back to school." I just stood there. Silence. Because what do you say to that?
Yes.
I made this decision. I chose to grow. I chose to be better. I chose myself. And somehow, that was betrayal to him. Like my ambition was something personal to him. A disruption to his plan. And that's when it hit me. He didn't notice me. He noticed what I did. He noticed the clean laundry, the hot dinners, the doctor's appointments were called, and forms completed, and toilet paper somehow replenished. He noticed the effects of me. But not me. Not the woman beneath it all. The one who wept softly in her car on some evenings after work, because that was all alone time she received. The one who worked past 3 a.m. on papers and then woke up at 6 to prepare lunches. The one who quit buying herself things because the kids required cleats or a new band uniform or whatever new crisis arose. He didn't notice her. He noticed the system. And now that the system was malfunctioning, he craved the old code. I stepped out of the kitchen that evening with a sense of loss. Something small, but significant. Like I'd left a piece of myself behind somewhere and forgotten where. And the house. It turned tense. Not boisterous. Not explosive.
Just cold.
I began to be shunned. The boys did the minimum they could, and only after being reminded to do even that. My husband ceased sitting with me on the couch in the evenings.
Ceased asking how school was going.
He'd scroll through his phone or watch something I didn't care about and act as if everything was okay. But everything wasn't okay. I began to catch little jabs. A joke here. A snarky comment there. Guess mom's too busy to make real dinner anymore. Oh, I forgot, you're important now. That one was from my youngest, and I don't even think he realized what he was saying. But it felt like a punch to the chest. And it made me question, what had I actually taught them? That mom will always bear the burden no matter how much? That her time is always less valuable? That when she finally does pick herself, it's selfish? The guilt crept in once more. Like a drip in a basement you assumed you closed up. Was I being too strict? Too fighting machine-like? Should I lighten up? A little bit? But then something occurred that brought it all into clarity. A Saturday. Rainy.
Dreary.
The kind of day where the entire house feels like it's sleeping. I had an assignment due at midnight, and I sat at the dining room table, headphones on, completely engrossed. I'd finally gotten into the rhythm. Words were coming. I was deciphering a difficult research concept I'd wrestled with for weeks. And then I heard it.
Crash.
Followed by, "Mom." I yanked my headphones off. It was my son. He'd spilled a full glass of juice all over the hallway, glass broken, liquid everywhere. Walked over slowly, glared down at the mess, and then up at him. And he was just standing there. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. And I swear to God, I could have screamed. "What do you mean, what do you do? You're 17 years old. You clean it up." But I don't know where the mop is. That's when I lost it. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just started laughing. Hysterically. Like, belly deep, whole body. I could be losing it laughing. Because how? How had I raised children who didn't know where the mop was? What does that tell you about how I've been dragging this house along?
What does that tell you about me?
I laughed. Stared at him straight in the eye. Figured out. Then I walked away. Back to the table. Back to my paper. And I did not look back. An hour after that, the hallway was spotless. The mop was discovered. The glass was swept. Nobody perished.
No catástrofe andable.
And that's when I knew something. They can do it. They just never had to. Because I always came in and saved the day. Always covered up the gaps. Always filled in the cracks before anyone else even saw them.
But now?
Now, the cracks were there to see. And they had to learn how to mend them, too. Later that evening, after I'd turned in my paper, I got up and sat on the couch and looked out the window. The rain had ceased. The world was still. And I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not peace. Not happiness. But clarity. I couldn't go back. Not to the way things were. Not to the me that hemorrhaged for everyone else while faking it didn't hurt. My husband came in, sat down in front of me, and after a long, stretching silence, spoke. "You've changed." I nodded. I had to. He shifted uncomfortably, like he was only just realizing something he didn't want to admit had been there from the beginning. I just miss how easy it was before. And there it was. Not I miss how happy you were. Not I miss how connected we felt.
Just easy.
I stared at him, really at him, and spoke.
Yeah.
Me too. But easy wasn't healthy. Easy was me doing everything and calling it love. Easy was you never having to grow.
He didn't argue. Didn't defend. Just sat there.
Staring at his hands. Like he was starting to get it. I don't know what'll happen next. I don't know if he'll actually change. or just adjust long enough to make the noise go away. But I do know this. I'm not going back. Not to being the silent servant in my own home. Not to earning love through exhaustion. Not to pretending I'm okay when I'm drowning. If I'm going to keep growing, they're going to have to grow with me, or be left behind. If I'm going to keep growing, they're going to have to grow with me, or be left behind. It was a weighty truth to live with, one I wasn't proud of, but one that I knew I couldn't ignore anymore. The following weeks were
odd,
not sensational, not boisterous, just altered, like the entire house was getting used to a different gravity. My daughter just continued to show up. Not flawlessly, not always smiling, but she showed up. She inquired about what I required. She began assisting with dinner without being asked. She'd even send me a text message when I had late classes simply to inform me, "Do you want me to throw something in the oven for when you get home?" That small gesture, it meant more than I believed she understood. The boys lagged behind. They still resisted, still lagged behind, but something changed after the juice incident. I believe seeing me not clean it up switched something. They knew I meant it. I wasn't going to swoop in anymore. And gradually they began trying. Still required reminding. Still required nudging. But it wasn't the same flat refusal as before. They began inquiring as to where things ended up. Began folding their laundry rather than leaving it to sit. Began washing their plates. Not miracles, but momentum. My husband was a more difficult tale. It's as if he was grieving something. Perhaps it was the state of our relationship in which I did everything without expecting anything in return. Perhaps it was the fantasy of control. Or perhaps it was simply that he didn't recognize the person I was becoming. And genuinely, I didn't either. We sat on the back porch that evening, just the two of us. The children were in bed upstairs. The evening had the scent of wet grass and exhausted arguments. I had my laptop in my lap, half working on a paper, and he was scrolling his phone, quietly. Then suddenly he blurted out, "I didn't know how much I took you for granted." I stopped and looked up. And for once, he appeared to mean it. He wasn't being defensive. Wasn't sounding it like an appeasement. He had the look of discomfort. Shame, even. I closed the laptop and waited. "I just got accustomed to you taking care of everything," he said. "And you never complained. So, I assumed you were okay." "I wasn't," I replied softly. "I know that now." I examined his face. "You know what hurt the most?" I told him. It wasn't the mess. Or the complaining. It was how nobody paid attention to how hard I was trying until I quit. He nodded. Swallowed. I was selfish. I didn't leap to comfort him. I let them hang. Because they needed to. He reached for my hand. "I want to be better. I know it'll happen eventually. But I want to be a true partner. Not the dude who cuts the grass and checks out." I glanced down at our hands. Then up at him. "I'm not that person anymore. I'm not returning to her." "I don't want you to," he said. And for the first time in a while, I trusted him. We didn't solve everything that night. Marriage is not a movie scene that resolves on one apology and a fade to black. But that talk was a turning point, a space where something cracked open and light began to seep in. He began showing up more. Not in big, flashy ways, but in the small ones. He'd call me and ask me what I was getting from the store. Text me in class to inform me he'd begin cooking. Do laundry and watch football instead of waiting for me to get home and do it. Small things, but adding up. The house began to feel less heavy. Still disorganized at times. Still crazy. Still a million things left undone and overdue forms and "where's my backpack" mornings. But lighter. Because I wasn't shouldering it alone anymore. I had boundaries now, and they were learning to respect them. I didn't require perfection. I required effort. I required no longer being invisible. And gradually, I stopped fading away. School didn't become easier, but I wasn't going through it by myself anymore. The kids were learning to prepare their own meals once a week. The boys began to clean the bathroom without complaining. My daughter even created a chore wheel and stuck it on the fridge one evening. We teased it about how crooked it was. But I almost cried anyway, because it wasn't even about the wheel. It was about being noticed, being appreciated, and perhaps most of all, being heard. A couple of months later, I strode across the platform in my graduation gown, gazing out over my family seated in the stands. They were applauding. My daughter held a homemade sign. My youngest wore a ridiculous graduation lei around his neck, as if he were graduating instead of me. I gripped my diploma firmly, not because it signified I was finished, but because it signified I began. I began choosing myself, began to ask for help, began realizing that love isn't about the amount you give, it's about the amount others are willing to bear with you when you can't bear it by yourself. And now crumbs on the counter don't make me weep anymore, because sometimes someone else really cleans them up. And even when they don't, I don't clean them out of obligation. I clean them because I want to, not because I should, not because it validates me, just because I want to. And that's the difference. I still have tough days, still get overwhelmed, still have to remind people I'm not a superhero.
But now,
They listen, they see me, and that makes all the difference. Because I didn't just take back my time, I took back me. If you've ever felt like the only one keeping everything together, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe for more real stories that hit home.